Delighted to say that Philip Ingram joins us, former senior military intelligence officer. Good morning to you.
Good morning again.
I'm still here. Couldn't get rid of you.
Yeah.
No,
Haven't allowed me escape.
Great to have you join us. We're talking about Tulip Siddiq first up. I want to talk first up this hour about Gerry Adams. Just discuss that with, of course, our last guest, Kate Hoey, the former Labour MP and now peer, but also, of course, from Northern Ireland herself. It's basically all your mates that we're talking to today. But the possibility that the Prime Minister, well, when I say Prime Minister, well, the headline says the PM to pay damages to Gerry Adams. No, it's you and me,
exactly.
taxpayers,
it's
paying
us.
money because the government is forced to pay compensation to Gerry Adams, the former president of Sinn Féin. Never, of course, a member of the IRA. Of course you weren't, Gerry. No one thinks you were. No one thinks you were. Just Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA. But basically it could be in line for taxpayer-funded compensation because Keir Starmer's government basically is changing their human rights legislation. What they're going to do is they are going to basically get rid of some Northern Ireland legislation which basically prevents people from claiming compensation for being interred during the 1970s, during the Troubles. Now, Gerry Adams was among 300-400 people who were interred. Now, some wrongly, others because there were serious concerns about the risk to life that they posed. But because on a technicality, Gerry Adams' internment order was signed not by the then Northern Ireland Secretary of State, but by an underling. It was ruled in 2020 by a Supreme Court, the usual liberal lunatics running our court system now, that was therefore illegal. So he could claim compensation. He wasn't allowed to under the Northern Ireland Act. They're going to repeal that legislation because they want, in the words of Hilary Benn, the current Northern Ireland Secretary, the government, they said they want to show to underline the government's absolute commitment to the Human Rights Act. Human Rights Act, Philip, is what stops us deporting foreign criminals. A guy last week, because he's bisexual, he can't go back to whichever godforsaken country he's from, where being bisexual would mean he would die. Well, I'm not sure that's my problem, mate, when you committed a serious crime, got put in prison here. We have this problem all the time. This man, Gerry Adams, who, I'm sorry, is an awful human being.
Yeah.
An awful human being, could get compensation paid for by my audience, by me, by people working here, by you, because of this obsession with human rights legislation. You're a Northern Ireland man, an ex-military man yourself. What do you make of this?
It's disgusting. We're seeing the human rights being applied to criminals, to those associated with terrorism, to those that are terrorists, not being applied equally to those that were involved in law enforcement and had to suffer, to the victims of those terrorists or those criminals, and include in that to victims of other things like the post office scandal.
Yeah.
Is the money coming out for them?
Infected
well,
with HIV
exactly. So it seems as if you're a wrong 'un in society, then you're going to get looked after and get your and my money, taxpayers' money, for under this weird human rights
the compensation, this poor man, Andrew Malkinson, put behind bars for years for a rape he did not commit.
Yep.
And they're really trying.
And then they charge him room and board.
Board.
Exactly.
It's just so obscene.
Yeah.
Again, the human rights legislation was about. It was really important. It's really important, and it's something that Britain, by the way, kind of started. Kind of us. It was us.
Yeah, it was us.
Europe, all those human rights you've got now, it was because British soldiers had died and the sacrifice of the British people to protect you guys. You're welcome. But genuinely, it's just, how on earth did it manage to just go so wrong, where people think that you have human rights because you've, even if you committed a crime, you've got a human right to a family life, you've got a human right to privacy, you've got a human right to this and that. Even if you have, you're a threat to society, and even if you raped and killed, we can't deport you. Well, how did... that wasn't how the legislation was originally interpreted. No,
it's not. And you'd think that government ministers would be advising the Prime Minister that whenever these elements of the Northern Ireland Troubles Act are being repealed, sections 46 and 47 being repealed, the implications would be this, and the headlines are going to be that. There's none of that thinking seems to be going on, which shows how shallow the thinking is across government with regard to everything.
Well, we often think, don't we, that Starmer's government, and when he stood for the Labour leadership in 2020, it was very, very different. What he had to say was very different to what he said to the electorate trying to get elected this time round. And we saw, just massive backtracking. And Mr. Lefty in 2020, no, he's virtually Blair in 2024. Although, of course, when asked, are you a socialist, he said yes. He's a socialist. Well, I mean, bit of a worry. But we know there have been strong links between the left of the Labour Party with the IRA, not just with Sinn Féin, with the IRA as well. I mean, bearing in mind, under Corbyn's years, I mean, Jeremy Corbyn has never met a terrorist he doesn't like, let's be honest.
Well, this is Corbynist policy.
Yeah, but exactly. Labour MP Diane Abbott, still a Labour MP, she was Shadow Home Secretary 2017. She refused to say that she regrets calling for the IRA to defeat the British state. She said it was 34 years ago. She said, I had a rather splendid afro at the time. I don't have the same hairstyle and I don't have the same views. Well, OK, then repudiate it. In 2016, then Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, there was something of a row with Labour MPs. He had a former Sinn Féin member of staff to join his office. That was Jane Fisher, the former head of Sinn Féin's London office. It's just, it's quite alarming how many people on the very left of the supported the aims of. I mean, you can support the aim of Northern Ireland joining Ireland. That I don't have an issue with that, but going much further
the IRA are not and were never freedom fighters.
No.
They killed more Irish men, women, and children than any other organisation. I remember the Le Mans restaurant bombing, where they burned to death a large number of Irish Cully Club members who were having their annual dinner. That is not.
Nothing says freedom fighter more than that.
Nothing says freedom fighter more than that. They killed children. They have killed pregnant women. They have been indiscriminate in what they've done. Gerry Adams led the political wing of the IRA, which was provisional Sinn Féin. He denies any membership of the IRA, but the IRA is run by the General Army Council, and the General Army Council sets the political and the military planning standards for what goes on.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to a quick call on this before we go to other topics, because Travis has called up, and I do want you to all call in on this. Give your views. 0344 499 1000. Specifically, under Labour's human rights plans, taxpayers could be forced to pay compensation to Sinn Féin's Gerry Adams for his prison detention in the 1970s. What's your reaction to that? As I said, 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text on 87222, send a message on X to @TalkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. Let's go straight to a call on that. Travis is on the line from Norwich. Travis, good morning. What do you want to say?
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Great show as always. And Phil, don't want to fall out with you. I'm not going to fall out with you. Just a different opinion.
We're allowed to do that in this country still. Just.
Yeah, not quite the BBC yet, but never mind. No, I'm a Catholic. Grew up in England, born in England. My dad was Irish. Came over here in the Troubles because there was literally apartheid for the Catholics over in Northern Ireland at that time.
There was.
My great grandfather, he was a member of the IRA in the Irish Civil War, and in 1994, my grandmother lost her brother and her uncle, Barney Green and Dan McCraner, at the Heights Bar massacre in Loughlin Island, which is when, I think it was like the last big massacre or last big killing before the peace deal was signed in 1994. And he was killed by loyalist paramilitary who were supported by the RUC and by the British government as well. And that's factual because it came out in the report that they did into the Loughlin Island murder. The guy who stormed into the bar whilst they were watching the Ireland playing the World Cup. He was known to the RUC. He was an informant for the RUC. His wife worked at the local police.
So your family is just imbued in this. So what do you make of compensation for Gerry Adams?
Well, he's not a member of the IRA. He might be a member of the Sinn Féin, but he's not a member of the IRA. And I think it's just, whenever I hear it on the radio, especially in this country, it's always IRA are bad, British Army brilliant. Well, they weren't, because the British government used paramilitary in Northern Ireland in the same way in which Iran uses paramilitary in the Middle East. They sent in the SAS and their intelligence services with the paramilitary, the loyalist paramilitary, and they had a hit list. They had targets of who they...
The thing is, Philip is rather more informed on this than I am. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in this field. However, I've never said, that everything the British government did or British forces did and police did in Northern Ireland was all absolutely fine and dandy. I've also got, Irish Catholic heritage. I would never say that. Certainly there was wrongdoing. But at the end of the day, yes, the IRA was a bad organisation, because any organisation in a democracy that is trying to use military or physical force to get their views as opposed to the ballot box is a bad organisation. They are a terror organisation.
Well, I think the IRA that you're referring to isn't the IRA that my great-grandfather was when they did after the East Uprising. Okay, you don't have in the 70s and the 80s. You don't have the what you would refer to as the paramilitary IRA, the provisional IRA, and then they spread out into different organisations as well. But then you need to remember, it's just whenever I hear on the radio, Michael's saying the same thing. It's always the same. It's very much an English perspective on what happened over there. But I think it's more balanced than that. It was bad on both sides. Yes, the Catholics, the IRA did bad things. So did the Loyalists. But the Loyalists were backed by the British government.
Okay, and before I let Philip Ingram have his say back to you, Travis, I mean, but you think that specific question, are you happy for your taxpayers' money to go for Gerry Adams to get compensation for being held behind bars in the maze?
I would rather go to him than to Mauritius for their island. How's that?
I mean, it's not. What about to him or to, I don't know, pensioners who can't afford the heating bill? I mean, it's all choices, isn't it?
No, that's fine. They go to the pensioners.
Should he get a penny?
Gerry Adams is already a wealthy man. He doesn't need any more money than what he's already got. Yeah, Martin McGuinness, he was in the IRA. Yeah, facts. Alone, killed people, sent people out to kill people. That's a fact, undeniable. Gerry Adams wasn't. He was basically the Mr. Bean of the Sinn Féin
Gerry Adams has denied being in the IRA, I must say. Right, Travis, let's give Philip Ingram a word, because a lot of shaking of his head while you were talking. Philip, here you go.
Travis, I grew up in Northern Ireland. I spent 20 years in Northern Ireland, and I've served in Northern Ireland in the military. There were some individuals within the security forces who worked with loyalist terrorists, not with their security forces hat on. They abused their position in the security forces, but because they had loyalties that were not that meant that they should never have been allowed to join the security forces. That is very different from individuals who are abusing their position and committing criminal acts than a state supporting activities that are going on. And this is something that people get very wrong indeed. Gerry Adams' membership of the IRA, he denies it. That is going to be tested in court between February and June next year by 3 victims of bomb attacks on the mainland in England who are suing him for £1 to try and get the truth out.
They don't want compensation, they don't want money, they just want the truth.
They just want the truth to come out. So that will come out next year. There is Gerry Adams has denied it, so we have to believe until this is proven otherwise. What Gerry Adams says is what happens. But there was not this loyalist terror and the state equality with what the IRA were doing. About 0.01% of the security forces committed criminal acts and supported terror organisations. 100% of the IRA were criminals and terrorists.
OK, that's what Philip Ingram has to say as former senior military intelligence officer. Travis, you get the final word.
Thank you. Philip, brilliant. I'm not going to fall out of you, but I disagree with that. Look at the reports into the Loughlin Island murder.
I have.
Dan McCrainer and Barney Green were my family members. Barney Green is the oldest person to ever be killed in Northern Ireland, OK? There was collusion there, and it says that in the report, OK?
Loughlin Island was a terrible...
The Hyde Spur, yeah?
OK.
The Hyde Spur.
All right.
He got steak knife. He was an informant for the British government, and he was sent out by the British government to go out and kill certain... They allowed him to do certain crimes because it made the British government's life easier.
Well, we know that's how it works. And we know that police use informants, on the British mainland who commit crimes. We know that. That's how they stay undercover.
Well, crime and murder is 2 different things, isn't it?
That is just
very much so.
You can go and kill someone. It's different to saying, I'll allow you to go and steal, burgle that house.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Travis, I'm going to have to leave it there just because time's going. I so appreciate your call. I'd love to hear everyone else's reaction as well. Travis, thank you for that. 0344 499 1000. Thank you for that. Let's go to Julia Salik now before we go to a break. Quitting after the ethics advisor to the Prime Minister ruled that she misled the public. How damaging? I mean, look, I think she was the wrong appointment in the first place, I have to say. How damaging is it to the Prime Minister, though, 6 months in, question marks over Rachel Reeves' chance. If you're being asked 6 months in, do you still have full confidence? Is she going to still last the next election, as your Chancellor? That's a, lame duck front page in the Daily Mail. Very influential newspaper. He's lost his Sue Gray, his chief of staff. Massive big issue to recruit this brilliant woman who'd have loads of plans for government. Clearly no plans for government were made. There were plans for her to have a desk close to the Prime Minister, and that's about it. He lost his Transport Secretary, who clearly lied to the Prime Minister about her fraud conviction, clearly, and big question marks about her. He's now lost a senior Treasury Minister, a mate of his dinner party mate in North London over ethics issues. She's done nothing wrong, but she's gone anyway because the perception she might have done something wrong. Yeah, well, that's also in breach of the ministerial code. There shouldn't be a perception. I think she was a wrong appointment anyway, given her links to Bangladesh and her refusal to disown her aunt, who was clearly murderous, tyrannical, corrupt woman. Feel free to sue former Bangladeshi Prime Minister. But all of this says quite a lot about Keir Starmer. Bearing in mind, it's not like he's only got a few MPs, not many to choose from. He's got 411 MPs to choose from to put in government.
Yeah. But given the majority that he's got as well, he should be riding on a wave of support and a wave of positivity. Yet, he's lost his chief of staff, 2 ministers. His chancellor, which is his right-hand political person, is under huge amounts of fire. And he's upset our closest geopolitical friend with
over Chagos.
Well, not just over Chagos, but we've got Elon Trump now attacking every element of
Elon Trump. I love Elon Trump. I mean, they're just one person.
Well,
now.
Exactly. Attacking everything, and I think we are going to see an Elon Trump regime that's coming in from Monday.
I still wonder how long Elon Musk is going to survive in a Donald Trump administration, because I don't think Donald Trump likes anyone else getting their headlines, and I think 2 big egos like that are probably not going to last very long. But just finally, before we go to a break, let's talk about inflation. A lot of people talking, it was headline news, what's going to happen at 7 a.m. this morning. As it is, inflation fell very slightly from 2.6% in November to 2.5% in December. There's also a hiring downturn. The business chiefs are warning it's just the tip of the iceberg. This is all in relation to the budget. And there's always global pressures. No, you've got a budget. You literally make it more expensive for people to hire people and to continue hiring people. They start letting people go. They don't give people bigger pay rises, and they hire fewer people in the first place. I mean, this is really basic stuff. Costs going up. We know retail. We know food's going to go up by over 4% this year. But the extraordinary situation this morning where Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, literally the deputy to Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, he's on telly. He was asked, well, when are people going to start feeling better off? You said, under Labour, calm, confident, no drama, ethics, all that, and growing the economy. Economy's not growing. Yep. We could be hitting a recession. Who knows? OK, they've got a bit of sort of ish good news today. He said that, people are going to start feeling better off because inflation's coming down. This is a man who is number 2 in the Treasury in the British government, who thinks that prices going up by 2.5% means that we'll have more money in our pockets. We will have less money in our pockets because we're going to be paying more for things.
More.
We're just not... Inflation, prices are going up. They're just not going up at the same rate as they were. It's ever so slightly less. Does he not understand basic maths?
Well, I don't think he understands basic business, because I think in the same interview he turned around and said that the government had a different view than the CBI as to what was good for business and good for the economy.
Also, we know that on Thursday the Chancellor's going to be meeting with regulators like Ofcom and other regulators to ask them how they think they can help achieve growth. Regulators don't produce growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Private businesses produce growth.
She didn't get the answers in her Christmas crackers with those little jokes. Maybe she was hoping that as she pulled those, it would give her an idea.
I think that's how they... Maybe she gets to the hairdresser when she's getting that awful fringe cut.
Does she go to the hairdresser to get that? Would any hairdresser admit to doing it?
I don't mean to be cruel, but can at least try and look like, a chancellor. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't know. No, I don't think it looks like Rachel Reeves or sounds like Rachel.
Well, I think
she answered questions in the Commons yesterday, and she was very much on the back foot. 6 months into a new government with a massive majority, Chancellor should not be on the back foot.
No, and no minister should be. And I think Keir Starmer is, if he's not concerned about where his government is going at the moment, he should be, because this is one of the worst starts of any government I've ever seen, and I've been through quite a few.
It is, yes. We've seen them in, counted them in, counted them out. It's been absolutely extraordinary.